Okay, welcome everybody. So we're going to power through this one. A little bit about me, why you should, listen to me. I've been doing SEO. I've been an SEO practitioner for more than 14 years. So I've been doing this since before SEO was a thing. And I grew my own websites. One in particular went from 50 hits a day to 2,500 visitors a day. And I did that in 6 months. So I've been doing this, in with my hands in the dirt and getting dirty and learning about this over a long period of time. I'm also I co-founded a few businesses. One of them was a 3D printer business, and I bootstrapped that and grew it to 7 figures. So that was a lot of fun. But it's one of those businesses where you need to do a lot of content generation to be found on the internet. So that was another opportunity to hone this craft. Because if we aren't creating content, then we weren't going to be found and sold our printers. Then I went back to school and I got a doctorate in business administration. And the focus of that, I actually did two dissertations. One of them was on technology adoption. I wanted to know why we adopt technology and why we don't, all of the mechanics behind it. And then I finished that. So I did a second dissertation, and that's on the topic of AI and marketing. So I became fascinated with that topic. But today I'm an educator, so I teach marketing at the college level, and I also work as a consultant, and I train business owners on how to do their own AI and put it to work. So, but enough about me. And I love, love, love Women Build AI. There's a photo from our recent Salt Lake City event. That was so much fun. There's for those of you interested, there's another one coming up in October. I believe it's the first week in October, and that one is in North California. So I hope to see you ladies there if you can make it. And it was that event was truly transformational. I walked away from that with just so much more confidence and the a sisterhood that I feel like I can fall back on and talk to and learn from. So I highly recommend participating in one of the events. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about SEO, search engine optimization, and the finding is that people are Googling less, and we're starting to do more. Consumers are starting to do more of their research on AI now. So the Google game used to be that you would go to Google and you would Google something like wedding photographer Miami. And I'm so glad Stephanie's here because Stephanie Holbrook is an SEO expert. And in the 14 years I've been doing this, she's the only person that I've ever met that knows way more than me and she can just she's good. She is good. So you chime in, Stephanie. I bow down to you. So we used to Google things, and we still do, but not as much. So we used to use these fragmented search terms like wedding photographer Miami, right? I mean, a long time ago, like 2 decades ago, we Googled something, we would write out long sentences. We used to do that. We go to Google and we would write out, who is the best wedding photographer, documentary style in Miami? But we don't do that anymore. Over the time, we've learned that we can just ask fragmented words and it's going to give us a really good answer. And we get these beautiful 10 blue links on the search results. And nowadays, we go to AI, or more of us are starting to go to AI, and instead of asking these long questions, we're starting to add even more to the words, and our questions starting to get even longer now, and we're talking to it almost as if it was a friend, right? So now I don't know about you, but I do that. I'll go to AI and I'll dear chat, I want the perfect wedding photographer and they can't get in the way and I don't want people to notice them, but I want them to get every great shot. And so we're starting to ask these really long-winded questions. And the thing is, AI is only serving up one, two, or three businesses on average. So it used to be like this, where we would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 results. And people tend to click only on the top three. And they had these beautiful blue, hyperlinks. I mean, we still get this for people to Google, but nowadays we're starting to move more and more towards this. Okay, so this is a Claude answer. So I asked the Claude for the same exact thing, and this is what it gave me. It gave me 3 links only, so there aren't 10. So it's just 3 businesses. And then it gives us a little bit of a summary on the different styles of wedding photographers. And notice like no links here. Sometimes you get links, sometimes you don't. So right? So this is scary. So for business owners and practitioners, so we've been doing SEO for a decade, right? There's a shift, but don't be scared because the things that we learned as practitioners for SEO still all apply. It's just now it's more foundational. And now we add on top of it another layer so that AI can find us. So what does that look like? Let's see here. So nowadays, the customer asks, for example, who should organize my home, office, and Coral Gables, and we type it all out, and then AI does the research for us, and now it gives us 3 businesses, 2 to 3, and then that's that. But here's the thing, small businesses can still win this. We can still win this because there's still a lot of real estate out there to be claimed on the AI platforms, okay? And we can still outgame the big companies. We can with the multi-million-dollar budgets. We can still do it better than them. And we go out there and claim this part of real estate as our own. Okay. So let's see how we go about this. So the 3 papers we're going to we're going to go over today revolve around the themes of visibility, behavior, and bias. And the reason I picked these 3 papers is I was inspired by Sabrina's video. If you haven't watched it and you're a beginner in the SEO space and you want to be found on the internet, highly, highly recommend that you watch her video. And let me put it in the chat right now. There. Okay. She did the most amazing video and she talked about 7 or 10 tips that everybody should do to be found on AI so that your brand, your name, your website are all found on AI. And she did an amazing job on this video. And she talked about what practitioners are doing today and what's working today. Okay, and this changes over time. It changes from week to week. But she did a really cool video on what works today. So I went down the rabbit hole. I said, great, this is what she has. This is what practitioners are doing. I want to know what academics are saying. I want to know what academics are researching back at the universities and not sharing with us, the lay people. So these are the 3 papers that surfaced. I did a full literature review on this topic. And my favorite one was this one, and it's called GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. And this is an oldie but goodie. This is 2 years old. And this is the paper that essentially coined GEO as a term. And I don't know where you fall. Some of us like the term GEO. Some of us like AI, SEO. I don't know. Put it in the chat. I want to know what you ladies like to use for this. For now, I'm going with GEO for the purposes of this lecture, but this is the paper that changed research in this field, and it helped, but it hurt us. And it hurt us because they put a figure in there, and they put this figure in there, 40%. And when they put it in there, consultants ran with this figure, and it got pasted everywhere. And they started using it and misusing that number. And they said in this, the practitioners and consultants started like lying. We started saying, oh, if you do these 7 things or these 4 things in marketing and for your website, you will increase your visibility by 40% in AI search results. And that's simply not true. What they actually did in this research paper is they went and they found websites that were already appearing in the GEO search results. And then they tweaked that content in a lot of different ways. And then they did the data analysis to see which 4 things moved the needle. And then they found 4 things that did increase visibility, but for content that had already been scraped and cataloged and was being served up by the AIs. So let me repeat this. This paper's been misused, abused, misquoted. You don't do these 4 things and then you're suddenly found on ChatGPT in the answers. No, if you've already been scraped and you've already been cataloged and your website or content is already being served up, these 4 things help it so that you get a 40% visibility lift over your existing lift. But Having said that, let's go over what those 4 things are, because they do help. So here they are. Number 1, you want to have citations in your website. So if you have content that's already performing well, and it could be a web page on your website, it could be a blog on your website, anything like that, a product page, anything like that, you want to add a citation. And it should be like a credible citation. And I'll give you an example in a second. You want to have a quote with quotation marks. You want to have something that is quantified, a number, a statistic, a figure, a percentage. And then you want to write it so it's super easy to understand and your answer is way at the top of your content. So it used to be that SEO, it was, we were Googling things and SEO was super helpful in there, and it still is. And you still want to apply all of the SEO frameworks that we've been practicing for the last 10 years. Like, things on your website need to be crawlable, they need to be relevant, they need to have authority, and they need to be useful. But now we need to add on a GEO layer, and that means that whatever content we have on our website, pages, blogs, whatever, it needs to be extractable, verifiable, quotable, and retrievable. So for me, as an academic and a researcher, I'm in hog heaven. I love this new stuff because I love to do research and I like to write research. So for me, I'm like, add a citation, check, add a quote, check, this is like my heaven. But so this is what we're moving towards. So these are some of the things to keep in mind. So here's an example, a very simple example. So say, for example, you are an AI consultant for businesses. Like many of us are here, right? We're all consultants. A lot of us are consultants. So here are the 4 things that move the needle according to that research paper. Number 1, you want to, here's an example of a sentence. You need to write clearly. A good AI consultant should clarify your goals, identify data, and workflow risks, assign owners. See how it's all spelled out and it's written clearly? That's how you want to write on your blog pages and your pages and your blogs and your product pages, whatever. Everything on your website should be written like that in a very clear and concise manner so that the AIs want to scrape it. Number 2, you want to have a quote. Every page or blog should have a quote and quotation marks, and then it should hopefully reference an author. So here's an example of a quote. I just made it up. Jeff Bezos did not say this, but I figured it sounded good. So you want to have a quote whenever possible in your content. And then number 3, you want to have a citation. So there's an example of a site where we cite at the very bottom a source. And we reference a paper, and then there's a link to the paper, but it doesn't have to be a research paper. It could be a newspaper article, press release, an author, a book, anything. You want to have some sort of citation, and then you want to have a number in there where you quantify something. For example, reduce weekly reporting from 5 hours to 3 hours, something like that, or a percentage. Reduction in or increase in sales by 50%, something like that. You want to quantify it. These 4 elements make your content much more readable by the AIs, and it's more likely to pick up your content if you can add these 4 elements. According to the researchers, these are the things that move the needle. So that's enough about paper 1. Now let's talk about paper 2, and this one is interesting as well. And this one, it talks about how people are searching and how searching is changing with consumers. So, and there's a split in the way that people are searching, and they're starting to search by intent. And that's where the line is being drawn. So remember, we're talking about, we Google things, and we're Googling now when we want to find options, when we're trying to find a particular site, when we want to find a particular product, when we're ready to whip out the credit card, we go and we Google something because we want to go right to that product page or to check out, or if we're trying to find a spec sheet to verify specifications or sizes of a sofa or a particular machine to see how fast a CNC mill will cut aluminum or whatever. We're going to look up, we're going to Google things when we're looking for particular things to check out or to find local businesses. We're still Googling. That's traditional search. But there's a line being drawn in the sand, and that line is called intent. And people that are looking to form a decision or find advice or compare products or find an explanation are starting to do AI search. Okay. And that's where the division is forming. And that's when we go to things like ChatGPT, Claude, or Perplexity to ask our very long-winded questions. Now, what does this behavior look like? Well, when we do traditional search, the average search is 4 words, right? It's like fragmented. And here's some examples. Estate attorney Miami. Okay, we've all searched like this on Google. On Google, we might look for small business estate planning or best estate lawyer near me. These are traditional search words. And on average, it's 4 words. But when we're searching on AI and we're trying to get advice or do comparison shopping, etc., we have much longer winded conversations. And on average, it's 11 words. It's way longer. So our queries on AI might be more like, which estate planning attorney is best for small businesses in Miami? I'm not saying it's going to be like this forever, but I am saying that researchers have done the studies and that they found that right now, this is how consumers are searching. And this paper is brand new. This paper was just published, I think, last month. This is the current behavior that they're finding with searchers and shoppers and consumers on the internet right now. So what does that mean for us? That means that we need to start creating content for our web pages and our blogs, where pages where we want to have authority and be found on by AI. Those pages we need to start writing and spelling out and answering questions in long-winded answers, and those answers need to be at the top. How do we find out what our consumers are searching for? Well, don't just guess. And that's what I found over the years working as a consultant, is that oftentimes the owner of the business or the CEO or whatever, their marketing team, they have it in their mind that they know and assume what consumers are searching for. And 99% of the time they're wrong. Consumers are oftentimes searching for their product or service, and they're using completely different words. I've found that over the years. Sometimes they're right, but a lot of the times they're wrong, and we assume wrong, and I've done it myself too. So you can go mining for these words, and you can see what consumers are searching for, looking through your emails, for example, looking through your direct messages on social media. Let me erase this. Looking at reviews, you can scrape Yelp, you can scrape your Google reviews and your competitors, and you can go see what phrases and what words they're searching for when it comes to your product or when they're talking about your product or a competitor's product. You can go to Reddit, you can go to Facebook groups and find out what these words are. And usually they fall into problem words, which would be, for example, my closets are chaos and I'm embarrassed when guests come over. So they're looking for that on AI. They're not looking for home organization solutions, at least not yet. We want to find comparison words like, is the health coach worth it versus just using an app, right? Because at this point, the consumer's in the decision stage questions, right? And then you want to find category words. Best boutique travel advisor. So these are the kind of signals that you're going to be scraping for on your reviews, on Reddit, on Facebook groups, and you want to go ahead and try to find out what your consumers are using in terms of long phrases when they're trying to find you or find your competitors. And so what's interesting is that traditional search is starting to decline a little bit, and AI search is starting to increase more and more as more people start using AI like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Claude. But what's interesting is when people do traditional search and they find those 10 beautiful links on Google, they tend to click on those 59% of the time. They tend to find something there 59% of the time. But when they find results on AI, they only click on those results about 12% of the time. So there's a lot less clicking on AI. And when you hear that, you think, well, do I even want to bother with AI search? Is it even worth it? People aren't even clicking on it. Even if I show up on AI, nobody's going to click. What the heck do I care? This is a lot of effort, Eva. I don't know. Well, this is why, because that 12% that does click, they have a very, very high conversion rate, 90% conversion rate. That's why. So it's a battle to get found on AI, but it's worth it because the real estate is still worth claiming. And then those few people that actually click have a very, very high conversion rate. And you want that conversion rate, and you want to claim your real estate on AI before somebody else does. So that was paper number 2. Now, let's talk about the third paper, which is not as sexy. And this was from last year. It's from about a year ago. And this one talks about how there's some bias in AI. And I thought it was interesting because it's saying essentially that AI is biased in 2 ways. Number one, it's creating content for you in a tone that may not be your brand's tone. So we're starting to rely, for example, more on AI like ChatGPT to generate content for us. And we need to be careful because it's doing 2 things. Number one, AI prefers to scrape content that is generated by AI. Okay. So ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, it's more likely to scrape and catalog your content if it's AI written. Okay. But number 2, it's writing in a tone that may not be your brand's tone, and it may not resonate with your consumers. So even if AI scrapes it, if it's not your brand and it's not your tone, it may not be doing you any service. I'll give you an example. You have a faith-based uh, child driving service. I don't know, I just made that up. There's a need for it. So you have like the Uber of children, and you have, all your Uber drivers have background checks, and they're all super religious and they're faith-based. And this is a service that you offer for parents, single parents, whatever, and it's faith-based. But your branding and your vision statement for your company is to be faith-based and Christian and whatnot. But AI is not writing in that way. AI is very centric. Or some scientists believe that it tends to lean left. So you just want to be kind of keep an eye on that. And that's why I threw this paper in. It's not like a big, like, life-changing paper or anything like that. But I just found it interesting that the AIs, when they do scrape content, they prefer content that's written by themselves, or they prefer their own content as opposed to humanized content, which is kind of weird. And that's 62% of the time, at least. So I thought that was fascinating. So what you want to do is you want to keep your lived examples in your content, and you want to try to maintain as much authenticity, opinions, and vocabulary with your own content. And you want to have direct answers in your content, hopefully at the very top of the page. And if you watch Sabrina's video, she walks through how you want to answer the question at the very top of each page so that the AIs are more likely to scrape it and serve it up. And you want to make sure that the humans are going to recognize you and that it's actually written by a human, because the apparently human written content still converts higher than AI generated content. So anyway, so these are some of the key takeaways. So you want to have, number one, what is the buyer truly trying to decide? Well, we determined that we can go scrape the internet. We can scrape reviews, Google reviews, Yelp reviews, Reddit, Facebook, all of these things to try to get these long-winded questions that our consumers are asking and what they're trying to decide, right? Number 2, you want to give that answer early in your content, preferably at the very top, the first paragraph, the first sentence even. Okay, you want to spell it out because you want to answer it in the way that they're asking. Okay, number 3, you want to give evidence. So you want to add some numbers in there, sprinkle some sources, maybe sprinkle some examples in your content, right? And then number 4, you want to identify who you are in your content, what you do and what you serve, somewhere in a paragraph. I tend to do it way at the bottom. And those are the steps that you want to take today. And these are the key takeaways that I wanted to give you. Mark, first go to AI, go to Claude, go to ChatGPT, and go to Perplexity, start a fresh new version. virgin page, go incognito, and ask a few different questions about your brand and what you offer. Like, who is the best wedding photographer in Miami? And see what shows up. And then that's going to be your benchmark. Okay, then I want you to go back and try changing those four things on your pages, on 5 of your pages, and then come back in 3 months. I know it's a long time. Come back in 3 months and see if your content is now being served up on the AIs, and see if it's even helped move the needle. So that's what you need to do, and that's what I recommend that you do. So the day number one, go back and try to collect 4 different buyer questions by scraping. And then number two, try to choose at least 1 to 5 revenue pages, right? And then rewrite your direct answer, move it all the way to the top of your page, add some proof citations, clarify your entity, and then test it on all 3 AIs. And then come back and see in a month, 2 months, 3 months, see if it's actually increased the traffic. So, and that's it for today, guys. I pretty much blew through it. Okay, so questions. Who has questions? That's a really good question, and I don't know that one. Stephanie, what do you, not to put you on the spot, but I wonder, what do you think? That's a very good question. If you go to Google and then you Google something, it's starting to give you a really cool AI answer, and I'm starting to lean in on that too a lot myself. But some people think that Google might even take over the AI search world because they have like the largest um, inventory of information, right? So take for example, like a ChatGPT. Oh, go ahead, Stephanie.
No. To give me your example, like I think that some of it just depends on the person searching, and everybody searches a different way. So some people really can't stand AI. There's a whole cohort of people who are totally petrified of AI, and then they're going to search. They're only going to choose Google because even though like Google still has data centers for all their information, but and then the other one, I think the biggest thing is no matter what, try to get in the top three of different, like try to search different ways and find a combination of what people are picking. And also anything you want to rank for, if someone else is linking to that article, like having backlinks to the article and someone else quoting you and linking to that article, and then having time on page, like just gives more social signals to the AI or Google, like you are the authority. That's the thing. I think it's just SEO. A lot of people are like SEO is dead. It's not dead. It's just that you're trying to get in the top 2 or 3 as opposed to the top 10 like before. It just makes the stakes harder. But I like the long tail keywords. But you can use tools to find out, just go to Reddit, Facebook, and everything to find how people are searching, but also using Ahrefs and SEMrush to also look at matching terms to make sure your articles have a big net, or at least you have a big net on your website that are catching the different ways people search. That's my opinion.
That was gold. What were those 2 things that you said that I never heard of before? Just make sure you have blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. It was in the last sentence.
Oh, backlink. Oh, I don't know what the last sentence was. Backlinks and
Right after that.
Ahrefs and SEMrush.
Yeah, what are those?
Those are
I'm putting
both.
them in the chat right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those
Go
are
ahead.
tools that have bots. So Google and Bing, all of them have closely guarded proprietary things that what their bots are searching for. But SEMrush and Ahrefs, and plus there's a bunch of different things. They use their own bots to scan the website and that tell you really what's going on. It's like a crystal ball to look at the back end of what's going on the internet. And then also using Google Analytics and Google Search Console, because that's Google telling you specifically what they see. That you can sort of see if there's, looking on the back end. I don't know if I answered your
True.
question.
Yeah, you totally did, and I screenshotted the chat. Thank you, everybody who typed it in there, and I will be asking Claude and ChatGPT to explain this later when I'm not taking up Ava's time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a good question. Cynthia, how are you, love?
So glad I was able to make it. You're amazing, and it's so awesome to see so many familiar faces and names. It's like being at home. Loving it.
I'm going out to California, so I'll be out in the IE next month. So hopefully I can see.
Awesome. Yes, let's hope so. So my question was, you mentioned revisiting the search results in about 3 months. Do we have to wait 3 months, and does it take that long, or is there any? And basically, my question is this, right? I'm hoping it can be sooner, but what is the rationale behind the 3 month suggestion?
Okay, and Stephanie might differ on this one, but so I just asked ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity a few weeks ago. I said, as of when is the large language models last scrape of the internet? So I asked it last month, which was in July, and as of July, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity had all scraped the internet, and then they were trained on the internet information as of December. Okay, so if they all were updated in December, the large language models from scraping the entire internet as of December, that means that it's answering questions in January, February, March, April, May, June, July, with information that's 7 months old. So we don't know when they go out and then they scrape again and they update the large language models. They're saying that they're going to start scraping them more often. I don't know. What do you think, Stephanie?
I agree with that. And I also think you don't want to make wholesale changes on your website because they're scraping and then they've identified this is this and this is this, and you start making huge changes. It messes up the algorithm, and then they're going to say your website is like a mess and we don't know what to rank you for. And then you're going to not rank for anything. And I think either, and also don't have, because there's so much data on the internet, if you have pages or posts that don't rank, you should either edit those and update them, or get rid of them, because they only have so much data server space. And if your website is taking up a bunch of server space and not offering answers to people, they're going to say this is a waste of our resources. I mean, that's, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but
I completely agree with that. So I would update a few pages, but not everything. I would tweak them and apply
yes,
those things, and then get in like you gotta check it like in a month, and then check it in 2 months, and then check it in 3 months. You know,
exactly.
and then go back and then ask Chat and Perplexity and Claude, as of when were you trained on the internet? When was the cutoff date? And then you'll know, like, well, I updated my website in February, and then they did a scrape in March and it didn't do anything. So maybe go back and tweak more pages. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and patience, right? So, but thank you all for joining. Thank you so much. I love you all. I love you all. I love my AI sisters.
It
Everybody
was
take
so good,
care.
Ava. It was such great information. I loved it.
Yeah, see you next month.
See you next one.